Alright, so get this folks, something pretty wild is happening in China right now. And it's not just about who's matching with who on dating apps. China's dating and marriage scene is in crisis, marriage rates are collapsing, and dating is at a standstill. Once busy wedding venues are now eerily quiet, and the excitement around finding the one seems to be fading fast. It's not just a few lonely singles, it's a nationwide shift with global implications. Young people everywhere are rethinking what love, relationships, and even family mean in today's world. In this video, we'll dig into why romance is on the rocks in China. We'll look at the real stories behind the headlines and the personal struggles that are changing the way people connect. We'll break down the key reasons, from sky-high expectations to economic pressures that make love don't cost a thing sound like a joke. For many, the cost of dating and marriage is just too high, and the pressure to succeed is overwhelming. This is about tradition clashing with modernity, and what happens when I do becomes I can't afford to. Generational divides are growing, and the old ways of finding love just aren't working for everyone anymore. Let's dive into what's really happening in China and why it matters, even if your biggest dating problem is just who pays on the first date. Because the future of love in China could shape relationships around the world. Let's start with the numbers. The story of marriage in China today is told in statistics, and those numbers are painting a stark new reality. In 2024, China saw marriage registrations drop to just 6.1 million couples, a record low for a country of 1.4 billion. That's a dramatic shift from just a decade ago, when weddings were a constant feature of daily life. That's not a dip, it's a nosedive. The decline isn't just a blip, it's a trend that's been accelerating year after year with no sign of stopping. Marriage, once the bedrock of Chinese society, is now an optional side dish many are skipping. Banquet halls that used to be packed are now sitting empty, and invitations are going unanswered. Divorce rates are ticking up too, adding to the complexity. More couples are choosing to part ways, reflecting changing attitudes about love and partnership. The one-child policy's legacy means there are simply fewer marriageable adults. The gender imbalance is real, and it's making it harder for people to find partners. The dating pool is shrinking, and the math just isn't working for romance. Singles events are less crowded, and many leave without making a connection. For many young Chinese, marriage looks less like a dream and more like an expensive, exhausting marathon. The pressure to put on a perfect wedding is overwhelming. Financial hurdles, housing, cars, and endless expectations make single life look pretty appealing. The cost of starting a family is higher than ever, and many are choosing to opt out. Parental pressure is still intense, but the willingness to give in is fading fast. Young people are pushing back, prioritizing their own happiness over tradition. Marriage is now a conscious choice, not a default. People are taking their time, weighing their options, and deciding for themselves what kind of life they want. When the cost of entry is so high, you can't blame people for hesitating. The stakes feel bigger, and the risks are harder to ignore. The result? A generation rethinking what commitment really means, and quietly rewriting the rules of love, partnership, and family for the future. Before marriage, there's the dating gauntlet. And in China, it's more business deal than love story. Dating is highly transactional. Checklists, property, cars, and the infamous bride price dominate. In big cities, these costs are overwhelming, turning romance into a financial marathon. Dating apps meant to connect often become platforms for scams or financial gain. The focus on money over connection leaves everyone feeling like a commodity. For men, failing to meet financial expectations means being sidelined. For women, it's pressure to prioritize security over happiness. The result? Dating feels more like a job interview than an adventure. No wonder so many are opting out. A huge part of this story is the rise of ambitious, independent women in China. More women are prioritizing education and careers, discovering fulfillment outside traditional roles. The old script, marry young, have kids, sacrifice your dreams, just doesn't cut it anymore. Many see marriage as a raw deal, career setbacks, unequal expectations, and little support. They're not anti-family, they just want equal partnerships. If that's not on offer, investing in themselves looks better than settling. Highly educated women want equals, not providers. It's a quiet revolution, but it's reshaping marriage rates in a big way. Now let's talk about the men. Young men face immense pressure to provide house, car, bride price, or risk being labeled leftover. Many feel excluded or frustrated by standards they can't meet. Even wealthier men resent being seen as ATMs, not partners. The system leaves men feeling trapped by outdated expectations. Some can't afford to marry, others question if it's worth it. Both groups are frustrated by a process that feels more like a transaction than a relationship. The result? Disenchantment and stress, not joy. The marriage market is failing both sides. Parental pressure to marry in China is legendary, especially at family gatherings. Parents push, nag, and set up blind dates, desperate for their kids to settle down. But here's the catch. While they demand marriage, many can't or won't help with the massive costs. Young people are told to climb a financial mountain, alone. The message? Get married, meet impossible standards, but you're on your own. This disconnect breeds resentment and stress. Parental pressure without practical support feels hypocritical. The result? Intergenerational friction and more anxiety about marriage. Love for parents remains, but their pressure often pushes kids further away. The gap between expectation and reality just keeps growing. The government's worried. Fewer marriages mean fewer babies and a shrinking workforce. So, they're rolling out incentives, extra marriage leave, love education courses, even cash bonuses for young couples. Some regions now offer IVF for unmarried women, acknowledging changing family structures. But most young people are skeptical. These policies don't address the real issues: crushing costs, work stress, and gender inequality. It's like putting a band-aid on a broken leg. A few perks won't fix a system that feels fundamentally unfair. Real change will take more than a government nudge. So what's really driving this marriage meltdown? Why are so many young people in China turning away from tying the knot, even as their parents and grandparents see marriage as a life milestone? The answer is more complicated than you might think. The economy is a huge factor. Sky-high living costs, job insecurity, and brutal work hours leave little room for romance. For many, just affording a home or even a comfortable lifestyle feels out of reach, making marriage seem like an impossible luxury. Gender inequality persists. Women face career penalties for marriage and motherhood, while men are judged by their wallets. The pressure to meet traditional expectations can feel overwhelming, and many women are choosing to prioritize their own ambitions instead. Younger generations value independence and personal fulfillment over tradition. They want to explore their passions, travel, and build meaningful lives on their own terms, rather than following a set path. The pressure to succeed at work is relentless, pushing relationships down the priority list. With the 996 work culture, working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, there's barely time left for dating, let alone marriage. Many are disillusioned by unhappy marriages and high divorce rates. Stories of conflict and heartbreak make some question whether marriage is worth the risk at all. For a growing number, marriage feels like an outdated, risky proposition, something that might bring more stress than happiness. These issues, economic, cultural, and personal, are all connected, creating a web of challenges that make marriage less appealing and less attainable. It's not that young Chinese people don't believe in love. The conditions just aren't right for it to thrive. Many still hope for meaningful relationships, but the obstacles feel bigger than ever. The environment for marriage is becoming increasingly hostile, leaving many to wonder if saying nah to nuptials is the only sensible choice for now. This isn't just about declining numbers, it's about frustration and anger. Young people feel trapped between ambition and outdated expectations. Families push for marriage but offer little real help, fueling resentment. Government policies seem out of touch, missing the root causes. The disconnect between pressure and support feels deeply unfair. Many see opting out of marriage as an act of rebellion, a way to reclaim control. It's not selfishness, it's a response to overwhelming pressures. The anger signals a system that's failing a generation. The marriage crisis is about more than love. It's about agency and fairness. China's marriage and dating collapse is about more than numbers. It's a story of changing values, economic realities, and generational frustration. Sky-high costs, shifting gender roles, and relentless work pressure are pushing I do to I don't think so. Young people aren't rejecting love, they're rejecting a system that feels unfair and outdated. Government incentives miss the mark, the real issues run deeper. The landscape of relationships is changing, and the old rules don't work anymore. The big question, what will it take to truly support a new generation's vision of love and partnership?